I bet you can't believe that some hearing aid clinics will actually try to sell you these hearing aids. Hey guys, welcome back to the DrCliffAuD vlog. This is vlog number 262, and today I want to talk to you guys about a dirty little secret inside of the hearing aid industry called white labeling. But before I do, if you could do me a huge favor, click the like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on, go ahead and do that as well. It is greatly appreciated. Now, if you watched my vlog from last week, vlog number 261, then you know that my biggest pet peeve inside of the hearing aid industry is this concept that the first fit programming of hearing aids is better than a verified hearing aid programming using real ear measurement. Now, if you do not know what I'm talking about, make sure that you go back and watch that video from last week right after this one. The topic of today's video really is this concept of white labeling. Now, white labeling actually happens in a variety of different industries. I want you to think of it like this. If you have a brand and they make a particular product, it doesn't matter what that product is, and then they basically take that and they sell that to another distributor or another company, but they take their brand name off and put on the brand name of this other company, that is white labeling. It's essentially two of the exact same product with two different brand names. The main brand who created it and a secondary brand who basically relabeled it as theirs. Now this accomplishes a couple of different things for both of these parties. Number one, the main brand that actually made that particular product, they can sell more of their products to somebody else who's willing to buy a large quantity of them and resell them. So the main brand gets to sell more of their products, probably at a lower profit margin, but they basically just wipe their name clean on that product, sell it to this other company, and then they can go and resell it for whatever they want to sell it for. Now, if there are any issues with that company that they sold that particular product to, it doesn't really come back to bite the main brand in the butt because it's completely rebranded. So if any of the customers of that company are not happy with the customer service, what have you, they're not going to complain to the main brand. They're going to complain to that particular company that is reselling that product with their own brand name on it. The benefit to the company who rebranded it basically gets to sell a really good product to a consumer without having to go through all the research and development and all of that stuff. They can just purchase that product, have their brand name slapped on it, and they're ready to go to market with it. Well, this is essentially exactly what's happening inside of the hearing aid industry, and not just in the United States. This happens worldwide. In fact, there's a lot of major brands that are distributors of hearing aids worldwide, particularly in Australia, that have hearing aids made from one of the top 7 hearing aid manufacturers, and they take the name off of that hearing aid and put their own brand name on it. Now, why is this something that happens so much inside of the hearing aid industry? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. So, number one, there are a lot of brands out there who are trying to establish their own brand name inside of the industry. Brand is a very powerful thing. You know, the DrCliff brand is really powerful inside of the hearing aid industry, and it's something that any or every company wants to build up when they're either selling a product or selling a service. But there's a major reason why this actually happens inside of the hearing aid industry, and the main reason that this happens is because these secondary brands, the brands that are slapping their own brand name onto a product that they did not create, is so that you cannot do comparisons of that product with any other product out in the market. When you think about it, when you have, basically, 7 hearing aid brands, 7 major hearing aid manufacturers who are actually controlling the vast majority of the hearing aid market, what happens is you get a lot of different companies reselling those exact brands. So like inside of my clinic, we work with all of the major brands. We got Phonak, we've got Starkey, we've got Oticon, we've got Signia, we've got Widex, and we've got Resound. So we have 6 of the major brands that are out there on the market that we dispense inside of our clinic. But let's say that you come in to see me, I give you a price quote for whatever the hearing aid is that you want. Let's say that it's a Phonak Audiosphere Infinio 90 device. Well, you could take that price quote, go to a completely different clinic, and they will sell the exact same make and model of that hearing aid. Now, of course, the difference is that the way that that hearing aid is fit and programmed is drastically different, usually, between multiple clinics. If you have one clinic that follows comprehensive audiologic best practices and a different clinic that does not follow comprehensive audiologic best practices, you can typically get the same exact hearing aid for less at a place that does not provide you with the highest quality of service. That being said, If you go into a clinic that is selling a white labeled hearing aid, it might have the look of a Phonak Audiosphere Infinio hearing aid, but the brand name will be completely different. Okay? And so what does that do? Well, it basically takes it to where if you were to go online or try to call up another clinic and be like, hey, how much do you charge for this hearing aid? They would be like, well, we don't even work with that hearing aid, so we can't really give you a price on it. And so what happens is that now you're trying to figure out if this particular hearing aid is A, the right hearing aid for you, and B, if the place that you're purchasing it from is giving you a good price for that hearing aid based on the services that they're actually including with that purchase. So it basically takes the transparency away from you. So let's say that you come into a clinic, they're going to give you the Phonak Audio Infinio Sphere device. You go and you do online research of it. You're like, this seems to be a really good hearing aid. I like the features of this hearing aid. That is definitely the hearing aid that I want to get. And then you go to a different clinic that has a white labeled version of that hearing aid, and you start doing some research on that. The only information that you're going to find is whatever that particular brand has put out, because they have basically made their own proprietary brand name for it. So it's really hard to do comparisons of that product and find out what the features are in comparison to other products that are out there on the market, because you only get to see what they want you to see. And if they're a really shady company, what they'll do is that when you go and potentially procure the devices from that clinic and you're wearing them, you're like, you know what? I like my hearing aids, but I don't feel like they're giving me the full amount of benefit. Let me take these hearing aids to a different hearing care professional and see if they can make some adjustments on my existing devices to make them perform better. And what happens is you take those hearing aids into a different provider. They're like, I don't know what those hearing aids are. They look like a Phonak hearing aid, but they're rebranded something else. And then when you try to connect those hearing aids to the programming software, they don't actually connect because the software is locked. And that's probably the biggest issue with white labeled hearing aids, is that you end up purchasing these devices. You're like, oh, well, those look like a Starkey device, so I can just take that Starkey device that was clearly manufactured by Starkey and take them to a different clinic that programs Starkey devices, and then they can reprogram them for me and I'll be good to go. And then you take them into that other clinic and they're like, sorry, like, they lock those hearing aids. We can't get into the programming and make any adjustments. So if you want us to fix a problem, you basically have to buy another pair of hearing aids that are the name brand version so we can actually work with them. Now, this problem is much more rampant in different countries, if you ask me. I think the United States has cleaned up their act a lot with this whole white labeling thing, but it definitely still goes on. So my advice to individuals with hearing loss is to never purchase a white labeled hearing aid. And if it is not one of the major brands that are out there, I would not recommend that you actually end up purchasing those devices. It's just too easy to get screwed over when you purchase a white labeled product. It is much easier to purchase a brand name product. Yes, will you spend a little bit more money? Possibly. Sometimes you spend the exact same amount of money, but then you can be confident that you can take those hearing aids into a variety of different hearing aid clinics. So for instance, I don't work a whole lot with Widex inside of my clinic. I think that they're great hearing aids. So if someone gets a Widex hearing aid from somewhere else and they bring it to me, even if I wouldn't have dispensed the Widex hearing aid to them, I can still go into the programming software of a Widex device and optimize that device much better than what they had that hearing aid program from a different clinic if they did not follow best practices. Really, I think the worst thing about all of this is that a clinic that would dispense white labeled hearing aids to you, if they are in fact locked, they should divulge to you that, hey, these hearing aids are white labeled, but that kind of defeats the whole purpose of white labeling. White labeling is done for one purpose and one purpose only, to pull the wool over your eyes so you can't compare those devices and so you can't take those devices to another clinic. So even though my biggest pet peeve in the hearing aid industry is this idea that first fit is actually good for people, is that there's this white labeling thing that happens and hearing aid manufacturers allow it to happen. And I am definitely anti-legislation for pretty much everything, but if there was legislation that came out that says that, you know what, if you did not actually manufacture said product, you cannot relabel that product something else when it comes to a health device. But until that happens, and it could be a very long time until that happens, you have the responsibility of ensuring that the hearing aid that you purchase is not white labeled.